I'm like, what's up, Pac? And they do me like this. So I walk to the back of the plane, give me a blanket, grab me a knife, my little black glasses on, and ride like this the whole flight, hoping one of them come with me so I could stab out everybody on this mother.
Well, if you aren't sure about what you just heard, I'ma keep it real with you. That was Snoop Dogg stating that he was ready to stab any of the death row members on the private jet plane. And that list included Suge Knight and Tupac. Now, this isn't a story that is talked about often, but in the year 1996, when Tupac Shakur was killed, he and Snoop Dogg no longer got along. And on the last plane they ever took together, shortly before Pac was killed, Snoop even felt that either Pac or Suge or anyone from their team was going to attack him. So why were Tupac and Snoop Dogg no longer friends?
Imagine if you, the biggest star on death row, and Pac come and take all your shine. You understand? And 25 years later, Pac died, and every time you do an interview, that name is brought up. So maybe he's just trying to take that shine from Pac, you know what I mean? And Pac is not here.
According to the man you just heard, Muta, aka Napoleon, who was a member of Pac's group Outlaws, Pac and Snoop's issues began as a result of jealousy. Back in 1992, during the golden age of hip-hop and before Tupac joined Death Row, the label's top artist was one skinny, 6'4" tall homie from Long Beach, the Dogfather. Snoop was the man at Death Row. He appeared on several songs on Dr. Dre's The Chronic, and Snoop became a star. In fact, Snoop was one of the hottest properties in the industry. And when Snoop dropped his debut album, Doggy Style, on the 23rd of November 1993, he changed Death Row's fortune forever. You can say Death Row was the house that Snoop Doggy Dogg built. Doggy Style became the hip-hop album with the highest first-week sales. Snoop sold over 800,000 copies in his first week, and at the time, this was a record for a debuting artist. And as at this time, Doggy Style was the fastest-selling hip-hop album.
Snoop Dogg changed the world with Doggy Style, man. Snoop Dogg, that was one of the biggest albums, one of the best albums, not just rap albums, best music albums that ever came out. He changed the game, man. And, he blasted the game and made it bigger. He busted open and made.
This was when several people started referring to Snoop Dogg as the king of the West Coast. With his laid-back and ultra-smooth delivery, the Dogfather had captured the ears of everyone. And with his record doing such numbers, he was like Suge's right-hand man. However, Death Row Records would sign another rapper in late 1995, Tupac Amaru Shakur. You would think a label that already released an iconic record like The Chronic and then the best-selling hip-hop album couldn't get any bigger. But that's exactly what happened with Death Row. Tupac took the label to a whole other level.
Thug life, y'all don't forget that shit. What type nigga is the thug life, nigga? Thug life, nigga, be the...
Right, it's Tupac. Just finished throwing up, we're back. That was the Notorious B.I.G. with Big Papa. You know, just kidding.
What are you doing? Let's put these clothes back, please. She said no. You go to school and learn, not for a fashion show.
Hey, have a good summer. Have a good summer.
She ain't got no hair like
dreads ain't working, baby.
That's out of style, baby.
The dreads ain't working, baby. You want to do something like this, baby.
Look at that. That got
Women. We gotta start saying fuck these bitches, man. Bitches ain't shit. We don't love them hoes.
After Tupac joined Death Row, the hierarchy changed. Pac blew up very fast, and he became the face of the label. With his personality and sex appeal, and everyone wanted a piece of him. It's easy to see why he quickly became Death Row's biggest artist, and Snoop Dogg was relegated to the background. What makes the situation even more interesting is that Snoop Dogg was allegedly one of the people who convinced Suge Knight to sign Tupac.
I thought about that. I've watched a few of his interviews where he said, hey man, I went to Suge and told him to bring Cuz over here. I believe he did. But I also believe, I gotta say, I think he brought him over there to be his Robin. I didn't think he was gonna come there. I didn't think he thought he was gonna come there and become Batman.
The Dogfather had become second fiddle. He was no longer the man fans wanted to meet when he and Pac were in the same room. And everyone knew he was no longer the top dog. However, it's important to state that Suge Knight noticed this and even mentioned to Pac that Death Row was indeed the house that Snoop built.
Be his Robin. I didn't think he was gonna come there. I didn't think he thought he was gonna come there and become Batman. I believe he became the #1, and Snoop thought that he would be his good sidekick, like his #2 guy. You know, like this would be a good 1-2 punch. But and in no time, Pac got there and became #1. That's what he wasn't second to nobody. That just period. He took over fast. You know. So yeah, I believe he could have went to Suge. It's not something I would know about, but I don't think he did it so that he could come there and dethrone him. I don't believe that. I believe he got him because he thought that would be a good additive to the unit, but he would still be #1 because he was #1 around the world. He was definitely #1 at Death Row. So I don't think he did it so that he could sit in the second seat. You know, Pac just blew up like major. Yeah. And I do recall there was a time when I was going down the hallway, Suge and Pac were talking in the hallway. They would just look like finalizing a conversation. And I don't know what was said before, but I do know that Suge said, but man, be respectful. This is the house that Snoop built.
But despite Suge's chat with Tupac, after the Quad Studio incident, where he was shot 5 times, and the East Coast-West Coast rivalry was at its peak, Tupac no longer talked to Snoop Dogg. See, this was because Snoop was on the Angie Martinez show and said live on radio that he had no issues with Biggie and Diddy, and that they were his homeboys. Pac felt Snoop was playing both sides, and even Suge became hostile towards Snoop. If they were all on good terms, Snoop would perhaps have been in Vegas the night Tupac and Suge Knight were shot, and he might have even been in the same car with them. However, the plane incident seemed to have stopped Snoop from going to the event. Snoop stated that when he got to the airport, Suge Knight stopped him from bringing his security team with him.
And normally on a private plane, it'd be Pac, his security, me, my security, Suge, and a couple of his homies. This time I go to the airport, my security walking with me. Suge like, hold up, they can't roll. They gotta catch a regular flight. So now I'm like,
that's not a good sign.
Oh.
Snoop Dogg felt something was up, and that he wasn't safe, even though he was with his fellow Death Row members.
So now I'm looking around. Pac right here, a couple other people right here. I'm like, what's up, Pac? They do me like this. So I walk to the back of the plane, give me a blanket, grab me a knife, a fork.
Fortunately, Snoop was not harmed, and he eventually got off the plane safely.
Put the blanket over my nose right here. My low black glasses on, and ride like this the whole flight. Hoping one of them come with me so I could stab out everybody on this mother. This is a 5.5 hour flight.
After getting off the plane, the Dogfather asked Tupac if he was going to Las Vegas.
Now we land. My Rolls Royce, Tupac Rolls Royce, Suge Rolls Royce. We step off the plane. I'm like, Pac, you going to Vegas to the fight?
Tupac and Suge Knight were shot at Vegas. Suge was lucky not to have suffered any serious injuries, but Pac was shot multiple times and died 6 days after the shooting. However, it seems Snoop might not be honoring his ex-label mate's name after he passed on.
First of all, when your homies die, your homies, you want to try to even take away anything negative from them. You want to show the good side of them, right? You want to be able to say, look, man, Pac did this. You and Pac was a good person, Nas, on that day. Not just, hey, Nas, you was a bigger person. because Pac was doing this and Pac did that. Bruh, if this is your homie like you say, paint him in a good light. Like if you're gonna speak, don't speak about the positive thing. Talk about don't speak about the negative thing, but let's talk about the positive things that, you know, how Pac was there for you as your brother. You know what I mean? Where he was like, no, keep your family together, stay married, raise your kids as a married.
See, in an interview on Drink Champs, Snoop Dogg stated that he never liked Tupac's Hit 'Em Up. However, the only problem with this is that Mootah stated that Snoop never said this to Pac while he was alive.
Nas was, but he never brings up how deep Tupac was. I always found that weird, man.
I think, wallahi, man, I mean, I swear by God, I think it just, you know, it might be something that he felt a certain way about Pac and he couldn't say it when Pac was alive. And, you know, now that Pac is not here to stand up, you know, he feel like he can.
Napoleon stated that Snoop Dogg saying he doesn't like Hit 'Em Up is painting Pac in a bad light, and that Snoop should have said this to Tupac when he was alive.
You know, for Snoop to say he never liked Hit 'Em Up and he didn't, you know what I mean, he never expressed that. You know, you got videos of him on stage with Pac rapping Hit 'Em Up and he's rapping the lyrics right along with him. You know what I mean? So it's strange now that all these things are coming out and he say he didn't like Hit 'Em Up, you know what I mean?
Snoop stated that when Pac confronted Nas in Central Park, he was there to see how it all went down.
To the exit.
I was right there.
Oh my God.
What happened was, Nas ain't got a lot of people with him, but he got a lot of people with him, if you know what I mean.
They're surrounding.
Well, right.
Got it.
And I'm seeing them and I'm knowing, because I'm a gangbang. I'm seeing with their hands on their guns.
However, according to Napoleon, Snoop wasn't even close to the scene at all.
Bro, first of all, I don't even remember seeing Snoop there. Maybe he was in the corner, you know what I mean, and maybe misread the situation, but he wasn't there. Like he wasn't in the crowd. He don't know what was said. He wasn't nowhere in that, you know, that proximity to know what was really happening. Those who was there, we was around.
Snoop stated that Nas was the bigger man, and he could have had his homies deal with Pac on the day.
Him and Nas right here, boom. Nas like, what's up, Pac? Man, I love your music, I'm a fan. That's what Pac say. Well, if you a fan, I dissed you, Jay-Z, Biggie, he named off a gang of them up. I dissed all you on the song. And if you a fan and you ain't got no beef, don't say nothing. And Nas said, I love you. I never diss you. And he shook his hand and he hugged.
Snoop stated that Tupac claimed to have punked Nas, but Snoop believed that Nas let him off.
And Nas said, I love you. I never diss you. And he shook his hand and he hugged him. And then when he walked off, Pac said, yeah, I punked that. In my mind, I was like, nah, he let us slide. Because Nas had more than we did.
Wow.
Now, you could say Napoleon is a member of the Outlaws and is only trying to protect Pac's name, or you could believe that what Snoop is saying is the truth. So, the best man to explain the situation would be Nas himself.
That's in Central Park, during when things were really heated, relationship. What was it?
I heard Snoop told the story a few times, but he had it wrong a little bit. He had said that Pac stepped to me. But, you know, I heard you was coming at me. I said, nah, that wasn't about you, but I heard you was coming at me, you know, back and forth. And it was like, yo, Nas, we brothers, man. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, so we had a plan to squash it.
Nas simply stated that no one was trying to hurt each other, and he and Tupac had a plan to solve their issues when they both got to Las Vegas. Unfortunately, Machiavelli was shot and killed before they had this opportunity. And it seems there was a bit of jealousy from Snoop's end. See, Snoop has had various interviews talking about Pac, and it seems most of the information he shares about Tupac are either wrong or paint the legend in a bad light. Could Snoop truly be jealous of the man he calls his homeboy? Tell me what you think in the comments.